off the bat, really was, what was one thing that you were kind of focused on improving, coming into this off season? And is it a certain pitch, or is it just, an attribute overall? Like, what was it that you were like, hey, going into this winter, I'm focusing on X?
Here lately, I've been putting a lot of focus and emphasis on my other offerings other than my fastball and my slider. So I've been really honing in on the changeup and two seam, my bullpens lately. Just trying to work on that third, fourth, and fifth offering, to complement the two that I really like throwing. And other than that, it's just, been honing in on commanding all my pitches, both sides of the plate, up and down, just being able to command all my pitches when and where I want to at any given time. So there's been a lot of like sequencing in my bullpens, throw a slider here, and then put a four here, put a four there. So that's kind of what I've been working on recently. And like I said, just, implementing the other pitches, to complement the slider and the fastball.
Now, just really quick with those pitches, because I mean, again, I know there was a lot of talk about you working on that changeup, especially kind
hmm
of during the season last year. Was that the one that you're really hoping, like, hey, if I can get this honed in, like that's the compliment offering that you want to the fastball and slider, or is it just you want all of them to be just as equally strong going in?
I mean, the idea is to have all your pitches be just as good as the other. And that way, in that scenario, the hitter definitely doesn't know it coming if all your pitches are, grading out as good as the other one. But yeah, the idea with the changeup is I have, really good movement on my four seam going into righties. My slider has really good movement going into righties. So the idea right now is to have something soft and going the other way from the right-handed hitter. My two seam does that, but it's just as firm as my four seam. So it goes the other way, but we're looking for something in that like 82 to like 85 range that, something that really pulls the string on them, gets them out in front, ground balls, double plays, that kind of stuff. And that's kind of like what I would want to use it for.
And just really quick, there's going to be a lot of these follow up questions because you keep
I
bringing
know
up
you're
such good
good.
answers. But do you think that some of the offseason additions and moving that has occurred on the roster too, does that play more emphasis into you really wanting to get that change up? Obviously, now that, I mean, let's just call it what it is. Right up the middle behind you now, you've got a trio of gold glove caliber players, sitting
hmm
there ready for those change ups to be dribbled over to, that four hole.
Yeah, I mean, definitely having the Gold Gloves behind me, that helps out with any pitcher. That gives any pitcher a ton of confidence throwing the ball over the plate, knowing if it does get hit, it does get hit hard. I got the guys behind me, to help me out. But for me, learning that changeup, regardless of everything that's going on around me, it's still something I really wanted. Even last year, the previous offseason, I've always wanted to like figure out the changeup. And like I said, I do so well moving the ball into righties. That's kind of just what I naturally do with my arm path and stuff. So it's kind of tougher for me to like get that pronation on the changeup to make it die and go the other way away from the righty. But it's definitely coming along. It's something I've been working on for a while, and I really like where it's at right now.
I know you had mentioned that John Lester had relayed a message to David Ross about,
hmm
pounding that fastball low and in. And you really went to that and you started throwing the slider quite a bit between the two of those pitches. It was like your most heavily used pitches during that span, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And I guess like when you started talking about the changeup and the two seamer that you've been working on really this off season, I don't know if you're aware of this, Justin, but from the span of like, I think that post game when you mentioned that it was like June 6th, it was right after that June 5th start. So from June 5th, and I'm not sure if this was like actually the turning point, but from June 5th until your last start, I don't know if you're aware of this, but you had the fourth lowest ERA in baseball among qualified pitchers. Is there a trying to incorporate now that you've got the command down from the fastball and I guess, mirroring those two pitches together? Is that the reason why you're kind of like looking for like a third or fourth offering? Because those two pitches seem to really take you off as it is.
Yeah, great question. With the two pitches, the four seam that has the natural cut and then the slider off of it, I've really gotten to a point where I can like almost manipulate how much it's moving, how much depth it's having. So like when with what you were asking about, like how I was able to use it at such a high clip and still get the success, I think it's partly due because I'm able to use it in different fashions. It's still the same pitch, but I'm able to use it in different fashions. You know, if there's a righty up and I'm backdooring it, like that one's not going to be nearly as sharp as the one I'm throwing to his back foot, because if the one I'm throwing to his back foot, I want it to look like a fastball longer and longer, so he sells out on it, and then it darts to his back foot, more movement, later movement. So I think that was kind of the slider question. And as far as the changeup goes, you know, I think it's just really important to have an off-speed pitch that's going the other way, because I throw my sinkers still a decent amount still, but it's still like a fastball or whatever. I'm still looking to like something that kind of pulls the string on them, and like I said, you know, gets them out in front, gets those that weak contact ground balls. You know, there's not much damage that can be done, you know, when you have somebody out on their front foot like that.
Absolutely. And just following up to Joey's question, because I mean, again, I knew Joey was going to have the stats, and that's what Joey does. That's what Joey does best. But kind of building off that too, right? Because following that June 5th start, again, like Joey said, that's where you really went to cruise control. That's where, you know, you settled in, you started to deal on a regular basis. I remember watching your start against the Brewers in August, you know, from pretty much behind your guys' dugout and just watching you sail through, you know, I think it was 11 strikeouts in 6 innings. Do you think that June 5th start is when everything started to click, or did things start to click a little sooner than
Dude, I'm so bad with dates. Like, I couldn't tell you the day I debuted. Like, I can't tell you like my first strikeout. Like, I'm so bad with that stuff. Like, I think in my frame of mind, the way I'm thinking, like I think it was all coming together the whole entire time, and then it just there was a point. I don't even know how the season lined up last year, but I would say it was before the All-Star break. I forget like what start it was, but there was like you know, everything kind of came together, and then I just kind of riding that wave of what I would like what I was building from that start, and then on. And I think it was even beginning before that, you know, earlier in the season where I was somewhat struggling and stuff. I just think, you know, the ball wasn't falling my way, however you want to say it. That, you know, things just weren't falling into place, and then once things kind of started falling into place, I caught my groove and I rode that wave. You know, I felt like I showed myself and everyone else, you know, what I can do over a certain amount of stretch of time. And, you know, the goal in this offseason and in this, you know, seasons moving forward is to span that over 162, 180 games, you know, playoffs, World Series and all that stuff. You know, it's time to take that, what I did over half season, and stretch it over 162 plus.